The rise of national consciousness in India. So how did this national consciousness rise in India? So in this lesson, we are going to study about that. So first we will see about the causes of this rise of national consciousness. Then some of the aspects which were responsible for this rise of national consciousness, like the Western education, then vernacular languages, then the end of social order, then the socio-religious reform movements, then the political unity. Then again we will study about the communications network, then growth of modern press, then Ilbert Bill controversy, and the pre-Congress organization. So in this lesson, we will study about all of this. Okay. So first, let's start with this cause of the rise. So the rise of national consciousness in India took place towards the latter half of the 19th century only. And before that, there were struggles and battles against British colonialism, but they were all confined to smaller areas and in any case did not encompass the whole of India. So earlier we have seen the Punjab wars, the Afghan wars, and the Sindh war, then the Anglo-Mysore war, then Anglo-Maratha wars. Then lot of wars were going on, but they were scattered, they were not single, so they did not encompass whole of India. So in fact, some scholars at that time did not consider India to be a country. That means to be a single or a single country or a one country, because it was divided into many kingdoms. So though political union had occurred in past under great kings like Ashoka and Akbar, and under the Marathas to an extent, they were not permanent. So India had already seen political unity under Ashoka, then Akbar, and under Marathas also to some extent, but these political unity was not permanent. And however, cultural unity was always seen, and foreign powers always referred to the subcontinent as India or Hind as being one entity, despite being ruled by many rulers. So though political unity was not there, but cultural unity was always there, and the foreigners always referred the Indian subcontinent as India or Hind. And it can be said that national movement with the political and social emancipation of people as its aim arose in India in 1885 with the formation of Indian National Congress. So we are going to study about the Indian National Congress in another lesson. For now, we will study about the rise of national consciousness. So Western education was also very important for this rise of national consciousness in India. People started to learn new things and about what are the things which are going on around the world, and what are the new things which are invented or discovered through this Western education. So Macaulay had instituted a Western education system in India with the sole aim of creating a class of educated Indians who could serve their colonial masters in the administration of the natives. So Macaulay did not had this, this larger than life philosophy to educate Indians. He just had one thing in his mind. Macaulay thought that we will need some help of the Indians. So Macaulay just wanted to spread the education so that he can get educated Indian to work for the Europeans, that is the English East India Company. So that's why he introduced this Western educational system in India, that is the English education system in India. So this idea sort of backfired because it created a class of Indians who became exposed to the liberal and radical thoughts of European writers who expounded liberty, equality, and democracy and rationality. So actually Macaulay wanted to create a class of clerks to serve in the English administration, but when the Indians were exposed to the English education, this idea backfired on English themselves, and in the Indians, when they studied the English education, they got to know about the liberty, the concept of liberty, then the concept of equality, democracy, and the rationality, the rational thinking. So also the English language united Indians from various regions and religions. So now we know that India is a diverse country, and each region has its own unique language. So English became a common language of communication between all parts of the country. So it united all the India by common language, that was the English language. So English language played an important role for unification of India, and exposing Indian students to liberal thoughts and the thoughts of rationality. Okay, so here you can see the spread of Western education in India. Then vernacular languages. The 19th century also saw the revival of vernacular languages, and this helped the propagation of the ideas of liberty and rational thoughts to the masses. So the vernacular languages were also revived, and a lot of work started to be done in the vernacular languages. Vernacular languages means the native languages, the Indian native languages, that is called as vernacular languages. So vernacular languages also helped in the rise of the national consciousness and the end of a social order, the old social order. The British imperialism put an end to the old social order of the country, and this was resented by many Indians. And the new social ideas emerged with the introduction of English education in India. That means the end of old social order means that the caste rigidities started to to loosen out, not to that extent, not to a greater extent, but some sort of flexibility started to be seen in this Indian society, which was a very rigid society, and new ideas of social establishments started to take place. Then socio-religious reform movements played an important role in the rise of national consciousness in India. So socio-religious reform movements of the 19th century helped a great deal in the rise of nationalism in India. These movements sought to remove superstition and societal evils prevalent then, and spread the word of unity, rational and scientific thought, and women empowerment and patriotism among the people. So by the spread of this socio-religious movement, a lot of new things emerged in Indian society, and notable reformers were Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Jyotiba Phule, and so on. So there were many social reformers which worked on the socio-religious reform, which directly brought a rise in the consciousness, rise in the national consciousness of Indians. Okay. Then political unity was seen during the British rule. So under the British, most parts of India were put under a single political setup. So earlier we have seen that there were different kingdoms, small kingdoms scattered all over the country, but when British took over, they put India into a single union, and that's why political unity was seen at that time. So the system of administration was consolidated and unified throughout in all regions. Okay, so this factor led to the feeling of oneness and nationhood among Indians. So this political unity also helped in the rise of national consciousness, because now people from south or north or east or west, they started to think that they belong to a single nation, and that is India. Communications network. This also played an important role for the unification of India, which ultimately gave rise to the national consciousness. So the British built a network of roads, railways, post and telegraph systems in the country, and this led to the increased movement of people from one part of the country to another and increased the flow of information, and all this accelerated the rise of national movement in India. So by the introduction of the railways, then post, telegraph, and roads, so what happened by introduction of this new system of communication in India, uh, the distant parts in India got communicated with each other, and people started to move from one place to other place quickly, and the information was easily available to them as compared to the earlier times. And that's why the whatever was going on in north, it was easily known to the people in south, and whatever going on in south was easily known to the people in north, and similar with the east and west. So people got connected in this way by the introduction of the new system of communication, and this was also responsible for the rise of nationalism in India and the rise of national movement in India. So the growth of the modern press. So the press also played an important role in the in the rise of nationalism in India. So this period also saw the rise of Indian press both in English and in the regional languages. This also was an important factor that helped in the dissemination of information. So lot of newspapers started to publish, and lot of Indians started to publish newspapers in vernacular languages, like Tilak also, Lokmanya Tilak, he started to publish newspapers in Maharashtra, that is Maratha and Kesari. Maratha was in English and Kesari was in Marathi. So Maratha was in English and Kesari was in Marathi. Okay, so in this way in Maharashtra, Tilak started this newspaper, Lokmanya Tilak. Then in Bengal also, various Bengali papers started to publish. In Punjab also, various Punjabi papers started to publish, and this newspaper started to disseminate the information which was empowering the local people and the common masses about the political movements which was going on in India. So that's why growth of modern press also helped to rise the national consciousness in India. So Lord Lytton's policies was also responsible for the rise of nationalism in India. So Lord Lytton was the Viceroy of India from 1876 to 1880, and in 1876 there was a famine in South India which saw the death of almost 10 million people, and his trading policies were criticized for having aggravated the famine. And also he conducted the Grand Delhi Darbar in 1877, spending huge amount of money at a time when people were dying of hunger. So here you can see the image of Delhi Darbar, and similarly here you can see the famine in South India where people were dying out of hunger. So this policy of Lord Lytton was also responsible for the rise of nationalism in India, and people got to know about the real nature of English rule, that English were not sensitive to their demands, and they were not sensitive to the needs of Indians, and that's why the rise of nationalism took place in India. So Lord Lytton's policy also contributed for the rise of nationalism in India. So Lytton also passed the Vernacular Press Act in 1878, which authorized the government to confiscate newspapers that printed seditious material. And he also passed the Arms Act in 1878, which prohibited Indians from carrying weapons of any kind without licenses. The act excluded Englishmen. That means only Indians were covered under this Arms Act of 1878, under which you cannot carry any kind of weapon without licenses. And Englishmen, they were allowed to carry weapon without license, but Indians were not allowed to carry license without Indians were not allowed to carry weapons without a license. So this was a discrimination from the British government. And the Vernacular Press Act also, like we have seen that the newspapers were playing important role in the dissemination of the information. So Britishers also came to know about this, and that's why they passed this Vernacular Press Act in 1878 for, to restrict the Indian newspapers from dissemination of information. So they brought this Vernacular Press Act in 1878, and that time the viceroy was Lord Lytton. Okay, so here is the Kesari newspaper which was published from Maharashtra by Tilak, and it was a Marathi newspaper. Then Ilbert Bill controversy was also responsible. So in 1883, the Ilbert Bill was introduced, which gave Indian judges the power to hear cases against European. By then Viceroy Lord Ripon and Sir Courtney Ilbert. Okay, so Lord Ripon and Sir Courtney Ilbert, they brought this law, the legal advisor to the Council of India. So Sir Courtney Ilbert, he was a legal advisor to the Council of India, and they brought this Ilbert Bill, by which the Indian judges will be authorized to hear the cases against the Europeans which were staying in India. So those Europeans who were convicted of any case, they may be their cases may be run in front of the Indian judges. So this was the Ilbert Bill. But there was a huge outcry against this bill from Britishers in India and in Britain, and arguments made against this bill displayed the deep racial prejudice the English had for Indians. That means the Ilbert Bill, according to this Ilbert Bill, the Indians can hear the cases against the Europeans who were staying in India, but the Europeans did not like that. How can an Indian hear the case, hear our cases? So that's why there was a huge outcry against this Ilbert Bill. So this also exposed the true nature of British colonialism to the educated Indians. And this Ilbert Bill controversy also helped the rise of national consciousness in Indians. So here you can see the Indians supporting the Ilbert Bill. Okay. Then the pre-Congress organization, which played an important role in education of the political education of Indians. Okay, so the Zamindari Association was important pre-Congress organization. So more popularly it was known as the Landholder Society, and was founded to safeguard the interest of the landlords. And although limited in its objectives, the Landholder Society marked the beginning of an organized political activity and use of methods of constitutional agitation for the redressal of grievances. So in this way, Indians started to take part in the political activity, and they started to get knowledge about how to agitate in a constitutional manner. So here you can see the Landholder Society's meeting going on. Then next was the Bengal British Indian Society. So it was founded in 1843 with the object of the collection and dissemination of information relating to the actual condition of the people of British India. So this was the motto of Bengal British India Society. The motto was collection and dissemination of information relating to the actual condition of the people of British India, and to employ such other means of peaceful and lawful character as may appear calculated to secure the welfare, extend the just rights, and advance the interest of all classes of our fellow subjects. So this was the motto of Bengal British India Society, to collect the information of British India and disseminate to the Britishers so that they can know about the real condition about the grassroots level of Indians. Then the next was in 1851, both the Landholder Society and Bengal British India Society merged into a single organization, and this organization was called as British India Association. So the association sent a petition to the British Parliament demanding inclusion of some of its suggestions in the renewed charter of the company, and such as now this British India Association, they sent petitions to British Parliament to include their demands into the charter. So their demands were establishment of a separate legislature of a popular character in India, and separation of executive from judicial functions. For example, that time collector collector at that time had judicial powers as well as executive powers. Judicial power means he could try cases, he could try cases, he could sit as judge, and similarly he also had the authority of executive. Executive means that to work for the development or for the revenue, for revenue, collect revenue and all these things, law and order. So he had these two responsibilities. He had this judicial responsibility also and executive responsibility also. So the British India Association demanded that it should be separated. The executive should be separated from judiciary, and they also demanded the reduction in salaries of higher officers because their salaries were paid from Indian money. It was charged from Indian account. Okay, and they also demanded abolition of salt duty, abkari and stamp duties. So these were the demands which were put forward by the British Indian Association. So remember these four things: establishment of a separate legislature of a popular character, then separation of executive from judicial functions, then reduction in salaries of higher officers, and then abolition of salt duty, abkari and stamp duties. So these are the four important points which were put forward by British India Association. This may be a question in our exam. Remember this. Then one of the important pre-Congress organization was the East India Association, and it was organized by Dadabhai Nauroji in 1866 in London to discuss the Indian question and influence public men in England to promote Indian welfare. So its objective was to influence public men in England to promote Indian welfare. So its main work was in England, and later branches of the association were started in prominent Indian cities also. So first it was established in London by Dadabhai Nauroji. Then the Indian League. So it was started in 1875 by Sisir Kumar Ghosh with the object of stimulating the sense of nationalism amongst the people. Who started the Indian League? It was started by Sisir Kumar Ghosh, and its objective was stimulating the sense of nationalism amongst the people and of encouraging political education. So this was the main objective of Indian League. Then the Indian Association of Calcutta superseded the Indian League and was founded in 1876 by younger nationalists of Bengal led by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose, who were getting disconnected with the conservative and pro-landlord policies of British Indian Association. So this was also one of the important Indian Association of Calcutta. This was also important organization which was active in propagating the political the political activity of Indians. Then the Indian Association of Calcutta, it was the most important of pre-Congress associations and aimed to create a strong public opinion on political questions and unify Indian people on a common political program. So these were its motives. Branches of the association were opened in other towns and cities of Bengal and even outside Bengal. The membership fee was kept low in order to attract the poorer sections of the association. So Indian Association of Calcutta was also a active organization which was working for the dissemination of political information in India. Then the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha was important organization. It was founded in 1876 by Mahadev Govind Ranade and others with the object of serving as a bridge between the government and the people. And Veera Raghavachari, G. Subramaniam Iyer, Anand Charlu and others founded the Madras Mahajan Sabha in 1884. Remember this, Veera Raghavachari, G. Subramaniam Iyer and Anand Charlu. These three started this Madras Mahajan Sabha. Then Firoz Shah Mehta, K.T. Telang, Badruddin Tayyabji and others formed the Bombay Presidency Association. Remember the name and the organization. Okay. Firoz Shah Mehta, K.T. Telang and Badruddin Tayyabji. These three started this Bombay Presidency Association in 1885. So these were some pre-Congress organizations which were working for the political empowerment or dissemination of political knowledge into Indians. So that's all about the rise of national consciousness. So through all these efforts, the leaders were able to bring a rise in the national consciousness of India, which ultimately resulted into the national movement or the Indian freedom struggle, which was helpful for the India's independence. Okay, so that's all about this lesson. In our next lesson, we are going to study about the Indian freedom struggle part 1. So in our next lesson, then we will see about how the Indian freedom struggle started and all that.